Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Data Playbook. Here we're going through the Week 10 Sunday games, so let's get into the next preview. So, kicking off with an early game with Atlanta at Indinapolis, which is really in Berlin. You have Indianapolis favored on the money line with a spread of 6.5 and a total line of 48.5. And just going to flip over now for the averages. Looking here with Indianapolis with a scoring rank of 1, so the best in the league at scoring for themselves. And that comes from a passing rank of 5 and a rushing rank of 7. Tight ends a little lower with 9. Defensively, they're not as good at stopping the pass, but they are pretty good at stopping the rush, which really adds up that they're still pretty good at stopping their opponents from scoring. But looking at Atlanta, they're the best at stopping their opponents from passing, and that matches up with the tight ends. Not as good at stopping their opponents from rushing, but about average at stopping them at scoring in total. They're pretty average with their offensive stats, a little lower with tight ends, but really bad with their scoring rank. They're one of the worst teams in the league at scoring for themselves. The quarterbacks for this game are Michael Penix and Daniel Jones, with Penix averaging 15.5 fantasy points per game, and Daniel Jones just under 20. Michael Penix has 3 passing interceptions, with 1 fumble lost due to a sack, and Daniel Jones has 6 interceptions this season, with 2 fumbles lost due to sacks. If we look at their averages and their weekly breakdowns, as well as their carry percentage, Michael Penix gets about 9% of the team's total carries, maybe a little smaller than average for quarterbacks in the rushing game, where Daniel Jones might be a little closer to that average or a little above, with 15.8% of the team's carries. Next up, you have the running backs, with Bijan Robinson and Jonathan Taylor. Bijan averages 21.1 fantasy points per game this season. Jonathan Taylor has been averaging 24.9, with the only turnover coming from Bijan, with 1 rushing fumble. So then we'll move over to the averages. And then just looking at their carry share, you have Bijan with 56.5% of the team's total carry share. So a little bit lower maybe than average, or about average. About that 60 range I think is what we see a lot. With Tyler Algier getting about 30.2% of the team's total carries. Over here with Jonathan Taylor getting a whopping 75.5% of the team's total carries, which I believe is much higher than average. Next up, we have Drake London and Michael Pittman as our number 1 receivers. Drake London averaging 19.1 fantasy points per game this season, and Pittman averaging 16.2. Drake London has a receiving fumble this season, and Michael Pittman has none. So then we'll look at the averages and their breakdown. With Drake London getting 33% of the team's total receiving yards, which is also the largest share, and Michael Pittman getting 23.2% of the team's total receiving yards, which is also the largest share, since there's a lot more spread out amongst a lot more people here with Indianapolis. For your number 2 receivers, you have Darnell Mooney and Alex Pierce. Darnell Mooney has averaged less than 5 fantasy points per game this season, while Alex Pierce has averaged 10.6 fantasy points per game this season. With no turnovers, we'll just switch the averages and look at their share, with Darnell Mooney getting 9.7% of the team's total receiving share, and Alex Pierce getting 20.7% of the team's total receiving share. Pierce has a little less than the second total receiving yards here, probably because of Tyler Warren here, which we'll see next. But Darnell Mooney here is getting beat out because of Bijan here, I think, with 26% of the team's total receiving yards, so quite a bit for a running back. And I believe we'll look here with Pitts, but we'll have to see. So looking into the tight ends, you have Kyle Pitts and Tyler Warren, with Kyle Pitts averaging 10.9 fantasy points per game this season, and Tyler Warren averaging 13.2 fantasy points per game. There are no turnovers between the two, so we'll look at the averages and their breakdowns. And as we thought, Tyler Warren over here at 21.5% of the team's total receiving share, putting them second best on the team right now. And over here, Kyle Pitts with 21.5% of the team's total receiving share, which puts him third largest of the team's total share. So there you have Atlanta and Indianapolis in Berlin. We'll see how this passing game goes with Daniel Jones, and if they can shut him down, that might prevent Indianapolis from scoring a bunch. But they do rely on Jonathan Taylor quite a bit, and I think the biggest concern here is the scoring rank of 1 from Indianapolis, and this scoring rank of 28 versus that 7-2, meaning that Atlanta might have a really hard time scoring against the Colts here. So we'll just have to see if Atlanta can really pull it off or not. So that's all I have for this game today. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like and subscribe, and leave a comment on what else you might want to see in the future. Other than that, thank you so much for watching.